think when we examine the tradition of bhakti poetry in Indian, the spiritual systems, or even in history, we find poets like Surdas,
Right.
who was born blind, who was in today's parlance visually impaired. But if you were to examine all his poetry, or even a thing such as Maiya Mori Main Nahi Makhan Khayo, that line, where in fact that entire poetry, which plays out between this child and the mother, and this uh, child Krishna, who was this world famous butter thief, you see, and who was at that point of time trying to convince his mother that no, I didn't eat the makhan, which is the butter. And that whole imagery uh, is almost impossible for someone who would not have had, let's say, the gift of sight as the world knows it. How did he even conjure these images, this sort of rich kind of alankar with which he sees Krishna and imagines the entire Vrindavan? And so that, compared to what you just now mentioned about Narsim Mehta, that was sort of, you didn't need those rich literature to come to you through texts, or the traditional methods of education for some of these obviously gifted people. But it was something beyond themselves.
Right.
And that, I think, is, that lends that sort of magic as well. Maybe it's limited them.
Right. I think once again, I'm speculating. These are the themes that I've often thought about. When you have any kind of disability that we're talking about, perhaps nature gifts you something which is heightened in a different area. For instance, someone like Surdas, who didn't have the gift of sight, as you point out, perhaps that freed him up from trying to match his imagination with the reality that he could see. So he just let himself go completely. And in the process, for any artist, when you let yourself go, you see absolutely stunning results. History is littered with painters and writers and poets and people who just let themselves go without being bound by the traditional definitions of what is creative. They produce amazing stuff. I think it's perhaps true of Narsim Mehta too.